Hey guys, I am back with another video, and um, I first want to send out all my love to anyone that is struggling or that is barely holding on, or it's just kind of like, what's going on? Like, you know, there's so much, or why you're being triggered, or things like that. So, in this video, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the triggers. I want to talk about um, how the triggers are okay. It's okay to be triggered. It's okay to be triggered because it's basically your way of healing. So when you're triggered, it's basically God's or the universe's way, whatever you call God, way of healing you from all of the traumas that you have felt. Um, so it's like, you know, it could be anything that's dealing with any trauma that you experienced. And the triggers are there. I mean, the triggers happen so that we can heal ourselves, so we can go within, or and figure out, well, what's wrong, why am I being triggered, instead of doing the opposite, which is projecting on someone else or shutting all the way down. And when you do that, you're basically just sitting on you're basically just sitting on your trauma. When so and which also explains the cycle. Because when we sit on the trauma, instead of us seeing, okay, this is a trigger, so let me find out what's going on, and instead of doing that, we sit on it and say, okay, well, or we project. We do the opposite of what we're supposed to do, which is okay, that's fine. But once you like stop wanting to go through that circle, like that cycle, and you want to stop going through that same cycle, then you understand that it's like, okay, why am you ask yourself, why do I keep going through this over and over again? It's the same thing. And the reason why you go through it over and over again is because it's basically God's or the universe's way of trying to heal the trauma that you're sitting on. So it could be, the things that are in our daily lives, relationships, whatever. If there is a core trauma that you have been through, that's already there. So that's already been building and building and building since maybe you were a child or something. And then you have the other traumas that have built on top of that. So it's basically it's not a bad thing, the triggering that we receive from people or from someone. And it's like, oh, it's just more about observing. It's more about observing and just realizing that it's never about that person that has triggered you. It's never about another person. It's always about you. And when you realize that, because when you once you realize that it's really about you, then you can figure out, then you can it's more of a then you realize that the triggers that happen are happening for a reason. The cycle is happening for a reason. It's not just happening just because you know God or whatever wants you to suffer. No, it absolutely not. It's happening because it needs to happen so that you can clear what you're sitting on. So it needs to happen so you can clear the trauma. And every time you go through something, or every time something triggers you, that is basically what's happening. It's basically saying, okay, especially if something in your body, it's basically your body saying, okay, we need to figure out what's going on here. It's something is not right, and it's basically a way for you to just, okay, acknowledge what it is and feel what it is, and just kind of like observe it. You know what I'm saying? Break it up piece by piece kind of thing. So that you can get to the bottom of why this person triggered me, like why my body is in this pain, or what's going on. So it's basically a way, it's a map. It's like a map, or it's like the cheat guide to get out of the cycle whenever you're triggered. It's just as simple as that. And then when it comes to, crying, things like that, people are so afraid to cry. And I'm just like, why? They'll tell you to stop crying. And we're raised as like, oh, don't cry. You're crying too much. And it's just like, we were raised like that, of course, right? But in reality, crying is healing. Crying is letting go. Crying is cleansing. I mean, there's so many things that comes to crying, and it is something that I have basically devoured. Like I will cry like in a drop of a hat, because I know that I need to cry. I know that I'm not ashamed to cry anymore. I'm not ashamed to just have a tear, like just have a day of just crying. Like I'm not ashamed of that, because that's your body's way of healing itself and healing the traumas and all the things that have happened to you. It's basically a awesome way to heal. And I know sometimes you think, oh, if you cry too much, you can get sick, yada yada, and this and that. But you don't want to, get carried away with the crying. When you cry, of course, it's like if you do too much crying, pretty much you're like depressed or whatever like that. But I mean, as far as like things, as far as like you just having a moment, you're just having a moment of cry, you're having a moment of releasing. And it's okay to have those moments. It's just not okay to let that become like, your life in a sense. And it's not okay to let our emotions become who we are, because we're not our emotions. It's just energy. We're more than that. We're way more than our emotions anyway. So the purpose is to allow ourselves to feel whatever we're feeling, and then let it pass. Because once we do that, it will pass. We have to acknowledge it and honor what you're feeling, instead of, oh, I don't want to feel this way. So you just kind of like sit on it, or you just like ignore it. It's going to come up some kind of way if you keep doing that. And that would be the triggers. That would be what is going on. That would be, the pain, or something happening to open your eyes. Because if you're not opening your eyes, then you can't see what's going on within you. You can't see it. So when we cry, it's an eye opener. When we cry, when we have our moments, it's a release. I mean, it feels like your body, to me, it feels like my body is being cleansed. And I've embraced it. And I've embraced it as far as like, if I'm going to have a moment of crying, I'm going to have a moment of crying. And I don't allow my tears to back up anymore. No. If I need to cry, I'm crying. I don't care what's going on. I don't care. If I need to cry, I'm going to cry. So it's really important for us to really like pay attention to those things. And like I said, the triggers are not bad. The triggers are not our enemy. The triggers are not, it's, oh my gosh, like it's not this, it's not suffer. It's not suffering, you know what I'm saying, when you're being triggered, or when, something is like, or you feel like you're in a cycle. You're in the cycle for a reason. You're in that cycle for a reason. The cycle wants to end. Your body wants to heal itself. The body wants to release the trauma from your body so that it can be okay. And so the universe, or, God, whatever you call God, is allowing these things to happen so that you can heal, so you can release, so you can see with different eyes, and you can actually live from your heart no matter what has happened to you. So, it also opens your heart as well, as far as like being bitter, or being, we a lot of us has been hurt to where we become bitter, and it's understandable, but that's just not, it's basically it's basically like putting toxins in your body when you're bitter, and you don't want that, because that can turn into anything. It could turn into anything else on the outside and in the inside. So, you guys, I just wanted to just, let you guys know that it's okay to cry. Let it out, feel what you need to feel, have that moment you need to have, and allow it to be what it is. Honor that feeling and allow it to flow. And it's okay to be triggered. If someone is triggering you, if someone is getting under your skin, that is not them. It never has anything to do with them. It's always about you. It's about what are you hurting from? What is the what is the what is the reason? Why is this person triggering me? Because we are creators, and we're not supposed to let people control us just because they say one thing, and then all of a sudden we're this and we're that and we're all over the place. No, we're supposed to, be responsible for how we feel and choose to respond in a way that is going to work for us. And we don't have to respond in a negative way. So we can always respond in a positive way. We have that choice. And it's never about that person. It never is about that person or the situation or whatever. It's never about whatever you feel like you're being attacked or the world is against you. It's never about the outside. It's always it's always in here. It's always in here. And when you realize that, you say, let me observe. Okay, so somebody kind of like just said something to me and it really made me mad and it really hurt my feelings. Let me observe why did that hurt my feelings. And when you observe those feelings, then you realize, oh man, there's so much that I'm still hurting from. Like, I'm hurting from past relationships. I'm hurting from people that have hurt me before. Anything. But your body, it's just your body's way of trying to heal. It's God's or the universe's way of showing you that you still have a lot that you need to be healed from. And that is okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with you being triggered. There is nothing wrong with you hurting. You need the healing. You need the healing. So those triggers are going to come. Those cycles are going to stay until you can see what it is that you're in. And that is just the bottom line. So if you have to cry it out, cry it out. If you just acknowledge it for what it is, acknowledge your feelings and honor them. I don't care. You have to honor your feelings. And when you acknowledge it and you honor them, it will pass. It will pass, because it's not those feelings and those triggers and the things that people are, do or say to you. It's not about you. And those feelings are not who you are, and the situation is not who you are as well. So you can always make it through anything. I don't care what you're going through. You can always make it through, because you're a creator. You were made to make it through all of it, because you have everything in here to help you. It's never on the outside. So I just wanted to come on here and just encourage people out here that are struggling with, or just feel like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm stuck. You can feel like you're stuck. You can feel like you can't get out of what's going on, and you can. Whatever it is, you can get out of it. Even if you feel like it's in your mind or it's a mental thing, you can you're the creator of your whole entire body. You can get out of whatever it is that you think you're facing. You can get out of it. You can get out of it because you are a creator. There is nothing can touch you. The only way that it can get to you is if you allow it. And so the triggers are there to help us heal. So you guys don't be afraid of the triggers. Accept it for what it is, observe it, and know that it's just God's way, or the universe's way of saying that you need to be healed. And embrace that. And, cry. Have your moments. Have